Hello, I'm Bill Bullard with RCAF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Well, today I want to introduce you to a friend who possesses both courage and compassion. But before I do, we need to address a fundamental question. Is it too late to save the U.S. cattle industry as we know it today? Now, there's always been a moment in time when our nation fundamentally changes course, a moment after which the ways of the old are forever replaced with the ways of the new. Now, Pearl Harbor and 9/11 are two profound examples. After the former, never again did our nation take for granted its safety against foreign nations. And after the latter, never again has our nation taken for granted its safety against terrorists. But today, and albeit in a less profound and much narrower sense, our nation will never again take for granted our food security. Now, meat shortages at the grocery store can happen once, but not without a major shift in public policy. A forced paradigm shift, if you will. And we're in the midst of that shift right now. It's no longer a question of whether our markets are broke. That's now a given. And it's no longer a question of whether the market is systemically broke or if it just hit a snag. No, you can't lose nearly half your nation's cattle producers, nearly 20% of your nation's cow herd, 75% of your nation's cattle feedlots, and over half your nation's beef packers in just over a generation, without acknowledging as fact that the problem is both systemic and severe. And in just the past few months, no less than 5 academic studies have emerged to provide policymakers with direction on how to chart a new course for our nation's cattle industry. Now, these reports substantiate what we already knew about the beef packing cartel and how it was disrupting competition. And they reveal new problems made possible by emerging technologies and the never-ending quest by the beef packing cartel to introduce new cattle buying methods to exploit their monopoly buying power. But there's a personal, human element to all of this that many have missed. There's the personal struggle that cattle ranchers like my new friend faced while trying to stay ahead of the carnage that broken markets have left behind in its wake. Now, my friend is Coy Young. He's a cattle producer from Missouri. He posted a comment on our Facebook page a few months ago. Said he was being forced to sell out. I can relate to Coy. I had to do the same thing in the wake of the 1980s agriculture recession. A New York Times reporter named Peter Goodman saw Coy Young's Facebook post, and he wrote about Coy and interviewed me for the background. Coy told the reporter that he'd contemplated suicide. Peter, the reporter, put that in his New York Times article. The article was then read by Congressman David Scott, who chairs the U.S. House Agriculture Committee. Chairman Scott flew Coy Young to Washington so he could testify before Congress. Now, I had the privilege of working with Coy as he prepared his testimony. His testimony describes the despair he felt at the thought of having to walk away from his 4th-generation cattle ranch. It was hard for me to read, harder for me to talk to him about it. But Coy testified before Congress with poise, dignity, and honor. He was direct and he told the truth. There was nothing false about him. When questioned about topics he didn't know, he said so. Coy no sooner returned home from D.C. when he sent me a message. Said he wasn't going to roll over for anyone. Said his cattle industry was too important to him. He said he wanted to help others and to find a solution to his broken industry. Coy said he wanted to start a No Farmer Left Behind campaign. I didn't know what he meant, so I invited him to participate in our weekly staff meeting. And that's how and why, with Coy, we kicked off the new No Rancher Left Behind campaign that Coy will lead each Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on Zoom. Now, it's our hope and prayer that Coy's conversations with ranchers from across the country will help strengthen their resolve to identify new solutions we've never yet thought of. Solutions to restore opportunities for ranchers who are now caught in perhaps the worst economic cost price squeeze ever faced by our industry, but who are determined like Coy not to give up on the industry they love. To join in a meeting with Coy, go to our website at www.r-calfusa.com and click on the No Ranchers Left Behind button. With that, have a productive week. Thank you and goodbye.